Someone and I would, someone was talking to me, sorry, and they talked about something, and I said something back, and it became an entire dialogue. What we arrived at was the conclusion that convenience is actively battling a lot of things, but one part of that conversation was specifically this. As you can see here, it was only worked on like 12 hours ago or something. And so I'm going to talk about how everything kind of stays on the internet, but not really. So while the information and the data itself may remain on the internet forever in like constant copies and reposts, and it occasionally gets unburied on Twitter or someday, information does not have the same staying power that it once did. A lot of people I see in like the news are very surprised that people have forgotten about or ignored the Epstein files, and I'm like, a lot of this has been out for years. So it clearly did not have the staying power, the cultural staying power that something like that would have had it happened to, I don't know, Nixon. And it did happen to Nixon in some way. So because of oversaturation and a mind-numbing amount of information accessible, things simply do not stay in our minds long enough to be retained in our personal or cultural memory. I noticed this a lot, but that's just generally because I'm a forgetful person. But I've noticed that a lot of people in my life are also just as forgetful about these things. I'd be referencing something that I believe they would understand, and they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like, no! And it's quite a shame. So why is this? Why is this the case? In my opinion, or from a certain body of opinion that you could see on the internet, or just on research papers as well, it is because algorithms, search engines, and social media make something so accessible, so intense, and so overwhelming that it simply makes us only remember what our brain tags as important. And if there is something much more fun and intense and much more dopamine rushing on the internet, things in your day-to-day life, they seem so much more bland in comparison that your brain simply doesn't tag it as memorable anymore. So, and if everything is important, as given by the internet saying, oh my god, this and that and that and that and that and that and that is important, then nothing is. All the more that nothing is. And so how can we combat this? How can we prevent it? How can we deal with this? For me, I've gone to being much more particular with my use of these things. I've gone a bit more analog than before, but it's still quite integrated in my life. I'm not going to say like, wow, I am off the web, I'm a hermit or something. I'm fucking not. I occasionally delete TikTok because also its terms of services also bother me, but I can't because it's integrated into my, if I get out off TikTok, I will not be as integrated in the social culture of the internet. And that could be a good thing, but that could also be a bad thing because you're not supposed to be out of the loop, but you're also not supposed to be in the loop to the same degree that we're at right now. This is too much for us. It's too much for our collective minds. It's too much for our individual minds. And so to me, the best way to deal with it is to use it less, but not to say not use it at all, because that also has its own bad sides. That is just why I'd like to say that everything kind of stays on the internet, because it could stay on the internet, but is it going to stay on your mind? You, the consumer of these content on the internet, is it going to stay with you? Probably not. You'll probably forget about this too eventually, but I hope that it got you to think, wow, I should probably stop doom scrolling. I know that probably won't do that, but hey, it's an effort, isn't it?